Welcome to this episode of your Spiritual Business Coach podcast. I'm your host, Ashu, and I am the coach for light leaders ready to own their fierce self expression. Let's do this again. Welcome to this episode of your Spiritual Business Coach podcast. I am your host, Ashu. I am the coach for light leaders who are ready to own their fierce self expression and build audiences that trust you with their eyes closed. We do this by integrating feline energy, which helps you birth match made in heaven offers and whisker-licking good marketing. In this episode, we are going to dive deep into how to protect your energy with your beliefs. Most of the biggest energy trainers are the beliefs you're holding, which take up a big chunk of your time thinking about them and behaving in accordance with them. And that is why I have on the podcast Shule. Shule is a shadow work mentor for spiritual entrepreneurs who are here to take their business to the next level without compromising on alignment. Welcome to the podcast, Shule. I am so excited to introduce you to my audience. I would love for you to tell about your story, who you are, what you do, and why are we here together.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here. And thank you so much for having me. I feel like this is just going to be such a powerful conversation. So who am I? Oh my gosh. So I'm everything. I'm like, how do you answer that question? It's always a funny question to ask. But I would say that right now my work is with spiritual entrepreneurs. I'm really for the energy and the frequency behind the business. That's really what I'm working with my clients on, and that's really where my work is. So I'm sure we're going to dive into all of that. And yeah, oh my gosh, did I answer the question? Did you want me to go deeper?
Yes,
Because I'm like,
yes, you did. Because all of the people on this podcast are going to be spiritual entrepreneurs listening into it. So they are already I believe they have their ears perked up to listen into this conversation. All right. So I got to know, when I looked through your profile, the two things that have stood out to me, the two components are shadow work and manifestation. Would you say that's correct?
yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So we are going to divide the podcast into the same thing. So we're going to have a bit of the shadow work section and a bit of the manifestation section. Then I'll ask a question as if you are coaching someone and people get to see how you are as a coach. And then we'll do some integration work for the audience. So integration work is something I give my clients at the end of every session, wherever they are. They just know that this is a task that they are supposed to do or a path that they follow, so that the neural pathways that change while we are talking, they are coded in and they are actually strengthening those pathways through the integration work. So we'll have a question for that. Sounds good?
Sounds good.
Okay, let's start with shadow work. I would want to know your introduction to shadow work, or anything you have to say about shadow work.
Yeah, I would say with shadow work, it's the way that I see shadow work is being able to look at yourself, right? So every single time you notice some sort of emotional disrupt happening within your body, within your being, something is triggered, something feels off. Instead of looking outside of you and being like, that person said this person did that, this didn't happen, this should have happened, whatever it is, instead of projecting onto the external, onto people around you, shadow work is really the internal work. Instead of going outwards, you go inwards and you go, why did I react this way towards this thing? What within me is holding a certain belief towards this thing that I'm perceiving? What am I making this mean? So for example, if something didn't happen, let's say that a client ghosted you, right? And then you have this response in your body, instead of projecting onto the client who ghosted you, you would sit there and be like, why am I feeling a certain way towards that? Where does this come from? What stories have I attached to this happening? What am I making it mean about me? And shadow work is really the opportunity to witness that within yourself and then shift it, right? Be aware of it, because once you're aware of it, then you know, okay, cool, I've been holding on to this belief. It caused an emotional response. It's something that I've been leading with that has been there. And now that I'm aware of it, now the power's back in my hands, because now I can choose to be different. I can shift it. I can choose to let go of it instead of continuing to listen to this belief and move in alignment with this belief and this way of being. And that's what I really love about shadow work, because it really allows you to just take responsibility and it really puts the power back into your hands, right? Because it's nothing outside of you, no people, nothing in terms of results or whatever it is can give you what you're seeking, can despite the results that you get, the results that you don't get, whatever it is, it's like all of it is an opportunity to come back to your seat of power and your seat of self. And that's why I really, really love shadow work in business. And I just think it's so vital for every entrepreneur to do.
I love that. And I feel like there were so many journal prompts in there. So I'm just going to repeat a couple so that people can make note of it. First was, what stories am I attaching to this and playing out from? And another one was, what in me is making this mean something? What in me is getting triggered? Understanding and journaling about that as a point of when you get triggered, having a point to anchor yourself is very beautiful. I absolutely love what you shared. I do want to point out something that definitely happens in my containers, because when we are very spiritually inclined, and especially into shadow work or into any other things, people tend to keep finding a lot of meaning to things. They're just constantly like, okay, this triggered me. Let me go and sit do my work, and not even allowing yourself that moment to throw the tantrum. Like, one of the words that I've used a lot in my coaching containers is, women, just go throw that tantrum. It's all right. And then you can do your shadow work, because sometimes people who, like, I definitely believe you are so wise and you've guided your clients through this. But sometimes people who learn about shadow work themselves, and that's why I'm putting out this disclaimer, is they think that they are supposed to jump into it right away the moment it happens. And that starts becoming like a cycle of repressing their emotions and not even holding space for yourself, not feeling safe enough, thinking, oh, this is a bad feeling. Labeling feelings is another way. Like, this is a bad feeling, I should do shadow work right away. There's no space to cry and just like be like, okay, this is annoying me. And once you had that human emotion, then you go to your spiritual side and be like, okay, what in me is triggered? What story am I attaching? Do you think that's something you...
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that. I love that you mentioned the attaching to the negative belief. And then, or like, I could dive into this so much because there's so much in regards to this particular topic. But I love that you pointed that out, because yeah, a lot of people don't let themselves have the emotions come up, particularly when you get deep into this work. Particularly if you're a teacher of this work and you guide people into this work, you automatically think, oh, I'm having that response. That's a bad response. That means it's attracting negativity. So then there's attachment to the negativity. And then on top of that, it's like, I shouldn't have this, I should know better. And then they end up not actually experiencing the feeling. They end up repressing, putting it down, trying to get rid of it. Like, they become really like self-critical, and it's really damning, and it's not actually shifting anything, and it's not allowing you to like grow. So I love that you mentioned that, like, just allowing yourself to have the response without judgment. So for me, and this has been like something that I've had to learn on my journey, something that I guide my clients through now, it's the practice of curiosity. So when something comes up, it's not a damn me for having this fucking thought. Like, it's not like that at all. It's like this is interesting. That's an interesting response. And I keep it really light, which is really funny, because when people go into the shadow work, it can be really confronting and intense. But when you keep it light and you don't keep it so serious, and you just approach yourself from like compassion and curiosity, something I always say is like, how would you treat a best friend who's coming to you with a problem, right? It's like, you wouldn't sit there and be like, you're an idiot for feeling that way. What the fuck is wrong with you? Do you know what I mean? Like, you shouldn't have that thought. It's not like that at all. It's like no, like, you hold space, you let them express, you see them in the emotion, and then you call them to a higher power, right? You lift them up when they're ready, once they've had their release. Because it's like, okay, cool, I love my best friend, and I want to make sure that she sees herself as like, you know, she can rise above this rather than like stay in the shit. So I love that you pointed that out. And then another thing I wanted to add to what you said was, another thing that people can really get lost in when they do shadow work and when they enter this space, and I see this in spiritual entrepreneurs a lot, because a lot of spiritual entrepreneurs do actively practice shadow work, is that they begin to look for problems, right? So this is like the problem frequency, and they try and find things that are wrong. So they look at what's not happening in their business, right? Maybe there's been a couple of days and the sale hasn't come through or whatever it is, and then they go, something is wrong. I have to do shadow work, right? So then they create a problem that never actually existed in the first place, trying to find a solution to what they're not perceiving in their external environment. So then this is how a lot of people get stuck in cycles of problem frequency where they're not actually moving forward. There's no momentum in like growth. Instead, they're stuck in cycles of like, cool, I'm like back to it, my seat of power, and you're like not projecting, right? You're like you're in your power, you're doing your thing, you're living your life, and then you go, oh, but there's no results. It's been a week and nothing's happened. What the fuck? And then you go, okay, nothing's happened. There must be something wrong with my frequency. I need to fix this. So then you go back inwards. I'm a clicker, so sorry, that was me clicking. For the listeners, but you go back inwards and then you're trying to like figure out, and you're literally creating problems that don't exist, and you're going into problem frequency. You're like on social media trying to be like, I need to find the answer to what's going on right now, and why am I not seeing results in my OD? And then you're attaching to what isn't happening to there being a problem. Then of course, when you're vibrating at that frequency, you become a match to more of that, and then that keeps amplifying and amplifying and amplifying, and people literally get stuck in this fucking shit for like weeks to months, sometimes years. So it's a wild.
I love that you mentioned that, because I've had a lot of people come and say, like, just signing up for programs, being like, I need to find my wounds and I need to heal them. I need to go deep, dig into it, even when they are not ready to get exposed at that point. They're not ready to come up. And I love that you said, if something is not happening, they think they need to do shadow work. Sometimes we totally forget the aspect that there is something called like a universal timeline. And a sentence that I say to a lot of my clients is, the watch on your hand is not the same as the watch on universe's hand. So you might have wanted those clients to come in those 7 days of your launch, but if that didn't work out, that doesn't mean that your program is a failure. It means that that program was supposed to be birthed at that point of time. And maybe there is someone who's going to come 2 months later, find that story, highlight somewhere if you've not deleted it, and be like, this is what I had been looking for. And that's why you were supposed to put it out there, instead of you being like, okay, I need to do some shadow work because 7 days have gone by and I've not gotten a client. So there's something wrong with me. I have whole policing aspect that I have to constantly right and wrong, monitor what my right thoughts are and wrong thoughts are, and not even giving yourself the permission to feel the negative thoughts.
I absolutely love that. And like, if you're looking for a solution for this at home, and if you're like, fuck, I've been looking for problems, the best way to get out of this energy is just to stop trying to search for something that's wrong. You'll be met with any like triggers or wounds that need attention as you do life anyway. As you go about your life, as the day goes on, you'll be met with what needs to be like seen, right? So it's like, you don't have to go searching for it. It's gonna present itself to you.
Yes, I love that. So now that we are on the topic of shadow work, I would love to know, when was the last time you did it? So just think of any, I know we do it constantly at all times. There's a lot of going on. But when was the last time you did shadow work in your business specifically? What was it around? If you are comfortable sharing that.
Yeah,
How
absolutely.
did it pan out?
Absolutely. I could totally dive into that. So yeah, my initial response was, I do it all the time, right? It's like, it's just something I do every day. And like I said, it's not this heavy, big thing where I have to go into big emotional releases. It's usually like quite like, it's just witnessing curious energy and then like relaxing and letting it pass through, right? And then it's not this big thing. So the last time where it was this like big like moment where I had to sit with myself and I was like, whoa, it was actually quite recently. I would say my 28th birthday, which was in July. So that was like one of my big releases, shadow work moments that I've had, like, I would say all year. So this happened pretty recently, and it was this path. So in my business, I got to this point where I started to really listen to like my ego's like desires, right? And I started to really limit a lot of what was possible for me based on like strategy and like what other people were saying about business and how it works. So I was giving my power away to like sales pages and how to write emails and all of that sort of stuff. And my journey really like took me to this place where it was like, okay, this isn't working. This is causing so much stagnation. I feel so not fulfilled running my business like this. It's not why I started this. So for me, it got to a point where I started to be like, you know what, fuck it. I'm just going to go for what I want, and I'm going to put all of my whole self in it. And I started to do that. So I started to really show up for like my business, my work, and my business started to like blow up, right? So it's like things just started to happen. And it's because I just wasn't like listening to my ego. I wasn't responding from my ego. I wasn't moving from my ego anymore. I was moving from my soul, my higher self, and I was just like, go, 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 right? So it was like this energy of like, I was really an active part in making things happen because for so long I was sitting back and listening to my ego's like doubts and fears around putting myself out there. So I kind of like forced myself to get over that. And then I started to like really show up as the embodied entrepreneur in my business. And that really like kickstarted everything. It's like it led me to actually working with spiritual entrepreneurs and just everything just started to like blow up, right? And it was like with ease. I just didn't have to force it. It was like, let's go. And from there, it kind of got to this point where it's like every time I would reach this like new milestone, like income goals, clients coming through, I was like, this is amazing. What would kind of happen is this feeling of, for me, the biggest thing was attaching to the results. So it's like I would attach to the results and be like, okay, now I have to figure out how to keep it. So that was my biggest thing. And then basically what kept happening is like I was able to attract things in, but then I would burn it down to the ground and then I'd go into a panic on how I was going to keep it. And I was working through that for like I've been working through that for a long time and I've definitely been like, tapping away at it. But this recent time, it's like I had one of my biggest like up levels in like May and April, which was met with like a lot of my attachment wounds to the external objects, to the external things that were happening. At that point, it was like, yeah, just major up levels, like in terms of like my highest income goal for the year. I was traveling, I was like meeting with like, it was just so many manifestations. And then I realized how much I attached to it. So a lot of people think that they're going to feel better when their manifestations come in. And I've experienced this time and time again through running my business, but it's like the manifestation comes in and it just highlights more of who you are, more of who you're being, right? So for me, it just highlighted more of who I was like being. And it was this attachment wound. And that was really like my next wave of evolution that I've been called to go through. And basically the shadow work that I've been doing has been on this piece of surrender. And it was this like affirmation that came to me that was like, I know it sounds pretty harsh, but it's like, it was literally like, what do you know, Shule? What do you know about like how good this can really get? And for me, it was like that statement goes beyond the physical objects, right? The physical abundance and things like that. It was more of like a feeling, a state of being, right? In terms of like how I felt doing my business, how I felt showing up for life every single day. Like that was truly, truly like what I wanted. For me, it's like not enough to live a mediocre life. For me, I want to live like an abundant, full, fulfilled life. And that's not to do with the external things. That's all an internal state, right? So for me, it was like having this like high being reached, having all of my wounds and my attachment wounds being illuminated, and then getting the opportunity to literally surrender that all and be like, literally, what do I know about like how good this can be? Like, can I just like stop attaching to what I think should happen? What I think like results need to look like, business needs to look like, da 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 da. And can I just be and enjoy and receive from the universe, right? So it's like, yeah, it's like I'm showing up in my business in a way where it's like, cool, I created all of these like amazing things and that's amazing. We can create those things, but I just believe that there's just so much more available beyond what we can even perceive. And for me, it's like, I want to be available for those experiences. I don't want to limit myself based on like, a 10K month income goal and things like that. And just like have like tunnel vision with shit like that. And I'm just like, no, for me, it's like the shadow work has been in, can I really like just go on this journey of co-creating with my higher self, with my soul, and really like just constantly remind my human, what do you know? Like, what do you know? You don't know really much, right? I can only perceive what I've experienced and what I think is available based on my mind, but that's so limited to what could happen, to where life could actually lead me. So I hope that that makes sense. It's so deep that I'm like, yeah, I'm like, we could do a whole like 2-hour podcast episode on that topic.
I know, right? But I love the point that you had mentioned. I also forgot to mention it before, but the fact that you bring that spirit of curiosity and adding that element of light, energy, because that's so in, like, I feel like we're such on like a similar vibration because I'm always like, make it playful. Stop making it so serious. Be playful in your business. Be experimentational in your business. Experiment with every single thing that you're doing. And the story that you've just shared with me is so relatable. is also going to be very, very similar to the next question that I'm about to ask you as we move into the manifestation side of things. Is that what would you tell someone to do if there are some specific strategies you implement to stay magnetic when you are hitting a wall in your business? Like you said, let's say either you've reached it and now things are going down. So how do I maintain it? How do I not burn everything to the ground every single time? So if things are going down or things are just not going past a certain thing, what specific strategies do you implement to stay magnetic?
Yeah, no worries. So, oh gosh, so much I could say on this topic. So, the first thing that I would advise you to reflect on is, am I truly doing everything that my higher self, that my intuition is telling me to do? Really sit with that question. Really sit with that, really marinate on that. And the more truthful you are with this answer, like the better it is for you, right? With these things that we're talking about, when you're lying to yourself, when you're just saying what you think you should say or what you think you should feel, you're really doing yourself a disservice, right? You're not hurting anyone else other than yourself. So really be honest with this answer. Are you truly doing what your intuition, what your higher self is telling you to do? Let me give you an example of this from my personal life. So if I go back to what I was talking about when I first started, not when I first started my business, but it was I got to the point in my business where I started to really put a lot of power outside of me to strategy, to sales pages, to all of those things, right? And because I put my power outside of me like that to all of these external things, and I was continuously in this cycle of responding to the clients aren't there, the money isn't there, the people aren't there, the community isn't there, people don't care about what I'm saying. Because I kept doing that, I kept energetically entangling with that frequency. So what was happening was my guidance, my intuition was stop worrying about those things and start to show up as the embodied entrepreneur, right? My intuition was clearly giving me that go forward, right? That advice. And I couldn't see it because I was so fixated on the lack of results in my physical 3D environment, as well as the beliefs that I had about myself and the business and all of the things. So for me, at that point, in order for me to actually begin to create momentum forward, I had to actually listen to what my intuition was telling me to do. I had to actually stop projecting onto my outer reality, and I had to take my power back, and I had to actually start showing up as the embodied entrepreneur. So that would be the first thing. What is your intuition telling you to do? Because for me, I thought I was showing up in alignment, and a lot of spiritual entrepreneurs, they mistake alignment for misalignment, right? So they think that they're showing up, and they're listening to their alignment, but they're actually not. So let me give you a tangible example. So for example, for me, I would show up and I'll be like, I'm just not feeling it today. Today, I'm just not feeling like I'm in my energy. I'm not feeling it. So I'm not going to show up and sell today. And then I just wouldn't, right? And then it'd go on for maybe a week. And then I'd be like, okay, cool. Now I'm feeling it. And then I'd show up and then I'd sell something. And then immediately I'm met with the emotions of rejection, disappointment when people aren't responding to me. And then I'm going into my hidey hole for another week and I'm doing the same thing. I'm convincing myself that it's not in alignment to show up because I can't face the feelings of rejection, my shadows, right? So that's literally the cycle that I fell in. Whenever I would show up and sell, I hated the feeling of rejection. So it would trigger that wound within me. Now, so many people do this. I've had so many clients do this, and the ego is fucking insane with how it does this. I've had clients who literally have the experience where they'll set a task for themselves to sell or to do a masterclass, and literally on the day, their egos will literally make them sick, physically sick, to keep them from taking action and doing the thing that scares the fuck out of them. So the way forward here would be you have to do the thing that's scaring you, that's triggering your wounds, right? And it's exposure therapy. It's doing it again and again and again. So for me to get out of this cycle, I literally set a rule for myself, and I was like, despite how I feel, despite the energy, despite all of the fucking spiritual excuses my ego was using as to why it wasn't good for me to show up, I just showed up and I didn't give my ego an out. And then I became the embodied entrepreneur by doing that. So it became to a point like where selling was like second nature and those things weren't even a worry for me. So that's what I did. That's like the first thing you want to do, right? It's like, are you actually doing what you know you should be doing? And that might not be selling. Maybe it's like going on lives every day, right? Maybe you got to fucking hit to go on lives more often, or show your face, or whatever it is. It's like, actually do what you're being led to do. That's the first thing. Now, if you're in the point where you're like, I'm showing the fuck up, I'm doing what I'm led to do, I'm doing the goddamn thing, right? It's like, I'm doing it and I'm bringing my full self, but it's still not happening. And I'm feeling like there's resistance, or maybe it happens sometimes and then it like dies down, or whatever the fuck it is, you burn it to the ground, which was my fun pattern. What I would recommend doing there, what's happening is you have an attachment wound, right? You're too obsessed with the external world and what's happening. You're sourcing your sense of worthiness, happiness, safety, security over what's happening in your external environment. And you will never be a powerful creator and a powerful human moving from that energy. You just won't. So if that is what's happening and you're like, I want to know how to keep it and force it and blah, 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 don't. This isn't something you have to force. You don't have to make this happen. You actually don't have to do any of that. You don't have to make anything happen. The fact that you actually desire to have this business, to do this work, to bring your soul's work to the world, it means that there are people that want to receive that work from you. That desire does not exist without people wanting that work from you. So there are people right now that are available and wanting to come into your experience right now, but they can't if you are continuously operating from the energy of forcing and pushing. Because if we look at the energy and we break it down, we look at the frequency of forcing and pushing, what is that saying to the universe? I don't have, I am without, right? So it's like, I don't have, I am without, and you keep moving from that place. You have to remember, it's not about the action you're taking. It's about the place that you do it from. So many people think, okay, now I need to like make it happen. And then they're taking action and action and action, right? But they're taking action from an empty place. And that's why the action actually isn't resulting in anything. So you're not making powerful moves. And also that action, it's like, it's not infused with you, right? It's infused with this lack frequency. I don't have frequency. So your clients can't even feel you on the other side of the action that you're taking. So the best advice I have for you, if you want to start to see momentum forward and you really want to open yourself up to like opportunities and abundance, like so much that's fucking available to you right now. Like I could literally cry thinking about it, because I'm like, it's so wild what happens when you actually like take a step back. And it goes back to that affirmation that I was talking about earlier about like, what does my human know? Really not much, right? So it's like, take a step back and just let the universe, let your business, let your soul work with you, right? You don't have to try and make this happen. You were a conduit for this work. It is a natural byproduct. It will happen. All of this is byproduct energy. You have to just take a step back, stay in your own lane. And it's likely, like, as I'm talking about this, if you're really in that push and try and force energy, that might be really triggering for you to hear, right? You might just be like, Shule, shut the fuck up. Like, I'm scared, right? Maybe your ego is even coming up with shit right now saying, who does this bitch know? Who is she? No one, whatever. It will literally come up with anything to try and get you to like not to do the thing that's going to scare you and push you out of your comfort zone, right? So don't fall for that voice, and really get yourself to take that step back and really focus on being here, being present with yourself, because in this present moment, without wanting and forcing and pushing, you will get your next steps. The next steps come, right? It's like, do this masterclass, reach out to this person, do this, go here, say this, whatever it is. It's like those steps come and they lead to the avalanches in which you are desiring, but also so much more than what you even can perceive as possible. It's like, that's what leads to the things coming through. But you can't literally get that guidance if your constant thought process is, how do I make it happen? How do I make it happen? How do I make it happen? Do you see how that would literally allow no room for like the guidance to come through on like your next steps?
I love the specific steps that you've laid out, like point one and point two. I'll just repeat it for everyone to give like a condensed version, because I was making notes when I was saying that. So the first one is, am I truly doing everything my higher self or intuition is telling me to do? So journaling about that, understanding that. And I love that how you said sometimes we confuse alignment with misalignment. And that's every example you gave was like, oh yeah, that's exactly what happens with my clients. And I have to always pull them out of it. And the second one is you don't have to make things happen. You've got to step back or basically do the thing that is scaring you. Do not fall for that voice. So that's just a little summary for all that you've said, which was super golden, by the way. Now, I feel like we've already stepped into the coach version of you already. I'm seeing you coming out in an element. So my question is, how would you coach a person who is saying, my audience, let's say they're doing a launch, okay? Like, let's go with exactly this. Someone is responding, yes, you do not know anything. I cannot step back. I am doing a launch. I'm trying to promote. I'm trying to fill in my private coaching spots or something. And I have increased my prices. I feel like my audience doesn't have the kind of money to pay the amount I am charging now. I have people coming in. I have discovery calls booked in, but I feel like they're not going to sign up because the amount is too much. What would you tell that? This is a coaching call, or what are you going to tell that?
Okay, I love it. And I was just laughing at what you said about like me already going into coaching mode. I'm like, I know it's like I'm literally obsessed with doing this work with people that it literally comes out in everything. It's like in everything that I do and everything that I learn. I'm like, how can I like deliver this to people and literally make their lives easier and better? Because for me, it's like, okay, it's not enough for me to just like achieve the things. I'm like, I need to bring people along. So I love that you pointed that out. And I love this like coaching call vibes. All right, let's get into it. So what would I say to somebody who is raising their prices and then they have the belief that they think that their clients, the people who are in their community, aren't going to be able to afford their raised prices? So what I would actually say to this, whenever we have a belief like this that we're projecting onto clients, it's usually a self-imposed belief, right? So you're looking at the way that you're resourced. You're looking at, it's actually an indication on how you're seeing yourself. So if a client said that to me, I'm like, okay, cool. So this is how you see yourself, not resourced. So first of all, that's the first step. And this is why I love shadow work, because you don't want to project that shit onto your clients, right? You don't want to like disempower them like you're disempowering yourself. So that's the first step, right? I'd like really go in and be like, okay, well, why do you think that your clients aren't resourced? And usually when we pull back the layers, it'll come down to it, oh, because I believe I'm not resourced and I don't have the money. So I'm projecting that onto my clients. Maybe I wouldn't spend that much on mentorship or whatever it is, or I haven't spent that much on mentorship or whatever it is, right? So that would be the first thing. The second thing is we would have a discussion on how you perceive people. This is really important, right? So do you perceive people as powerful or non-powerful, resourced or non-resourced? Because this is going to indicate, first of all, how many clients you allow in, the type of client that you attract. Because if you have this like disempowering outlook when you look at your clients, if you're projecting that energy onto clients, what are you going to attract in return, right? Like attracts like. So it's like you're going to attract people who are disempowered. So you might get some people come through in that energy, but they won't be your ideal client. They won't be those powerful people that get amazing results. I think so many people in the coaching space are focused on booking the client, but they're not focusing on the type of client that they're booking. Right. And this is really, really, really important because this is going to affect how you feel about the work that you're doing and also like the transformation you get with the client. Like you really want that like expansive container for the both of you, right? Because it's like when your soul is being fed by the client, you're just like, fuck, I love this, right? And then you want to give more and it just creates for really powerful spaces and powerful transformation. So that's something you want to really be aware of. So it's like if you have the thought that, oh, my clients aren't going to be able to afford me, you are perceiving people through a disempowered lens. You're seeing people as disempowered and not resourced. And you're not only attracting that type of person into your experience, but then secondly, you're also projecting that energy onto the client. So the client can literally, when they're in your space, what's actually happening because you're illuminating that frequency is they're feeling that. Right? They might not know you're the reason that they feel that. Like it's a co-creation, right? It's like you're not the pure reason that they feel that. They obviously have that energy within them. But it's like when you project that energy out onto a client, they can feel that, right? Because they feel disempowered. They feel like I'm not powerful. So you're not creating a powerful landing pad for the client to come in and feel safe to invest in you and invest in themselves. Because they're sitting there going, well, I'm not powerful, right? So you're projecting the belief you're not going to be out. It's not you're not powerful, but it is when you break down the frequency. But it's like you're projecting the belief you're not going to have the money to come in. the client's like, I'm not going to have the money to come in. I'm not going to be able to pay this. I'm not going to be able to get results from this. What's the point, right? You're highlighting that disempowered energy from like in them, right? And that's why they're not coming forward. That's why they're not like, hey, I trust in you and what you do and let's fucking go, right? They're not doing that because you are projecting this disempowered energy onto them. So if you want to attract powerful people and you want to see your clients as powerful, like you want to actually allow the client to come through, and what you want to do is you want to see them as powerful and you want to see them as a resource, right? They are powerful, they are a resource. So for me, I work with spiritual entrepreneurs, and something that I do is I don't do discovery calls. I don't do forms or anything like that for the person to come through. I don't do anything like that because I'm so solid that the person that's going to come through is going to be that powerful person, right? That powerful entrepreneur. I don't focus on how much they make. I've worked with entrepreneurs who make like 6-figure months, 5-figure months, people who are just starting out their businesses, people who don't make any money, who've been doing it for a while, whatever it is, literally a range of different people. But for me, I don't look at external results, where they are or anything like that. And that's not how I define who I work with, because who I work with is a type of person who emits this like powerful resource frequency, and it doesn't matter what results you have. It matters like who you are and how you show up, right? So like that's something that is not really common in this space, particularly in the entrepreneurial space. You'll see lots of people be like, okay, I only work with people that make this a certain amount, and they'll do like coaching calls, and they're really like protective over like their time and their energy. And for me, I'm just like, no, like I believe that people are powerful. I believe that people are resourced no matter where they are. And I trust that if somebody's feeling called to come into my world, it's for a reason, it's for a journey, and I'm here for that journey. I'm here for that experience, whatever it might entail. And yeah, it's a really important conversation to have, particularly being a coach in this space, like seeing your community, seeing your clients as powerful resource, to giving them that matter, like that benefit of the doubt, right? Not projecting your own like perceived ideas on, the amount of money you think they have available to you. Like, you don't know any of that. You know what I mean? It's like, no, and money comes out of the sky like that. You can blink and your bank account is on a completely different number tomorrow, right? Money literally falls out of the fucking sky. Imagine limiting your client like that. It's like, no way.
I love that. I'm gonna again summarize it because I was making notes so that everyone can have an understanding. I feel like a lot of it revolved around the way you see clients and the kind of assumptions you're making. Something that I've heard quite a lot that I say to my clients as well is, don't reach out to their pockets. Don't reach out to the pockets of your clients. You don't know what's going on there. And one thing that has really helped me understand is, if they don't have the money, they are resourceful. That's why you use the word resourced instead of using they have the money, because our brain will automatically question it. Like, what if they don't have the money lying around to invest? But they have credit cards, they have savings, they have all of those things that can help them be resourced and invest in you. And that's where I feel like I'm glad I asked you this question, that you pointed it out, to perceive people as powerful, to give them the benefit of the doubt. Because if we don't do that and then we step on a call and we project all of that, the client doesn't sign up with us, but the next time you see that person signing up for someone else's program, which is 10x your price, and you wonder what went wrong, this is the conversation you need to listen to. This is what went wrong there in that conversation.
I love that you summarize what I say. It's so good because it like brings it down, and you like point out like the important takeaways, which is really digestible. I really love that you do that. And I love that you pointed out when somebody actually purchases with somebody else who is literally like 10 times the amount that you charge, it goes to show like those moments are so powerful, because you're like, whoa, okay, like I see how I'm perceiving people. And yeah, it's like a really empowering moment to be like, fuck, okay, cool. Like I get to see people as powerful, and it just creates for like really powerful transformations to also take place in your community.
I love all that you've shared, and I want to get into some integration work, which is going to be, what can someone listening to this, now that I know that I need to perceive properly, I am not going to be projecting stuff, and the projection came up in a lot of our questions here. So we've gotten these key takeaways. Someone is trying to manifest their next client or next big client, whatever it is. What would you tell them to do listening to this? Like an action step they can take away right away from this podcast.
I would actually go back to that question that you had asked me around like being magnetic. And it was those two key concepts of, are you listening to everything that your higher self is actually telling you to do? If you are, and you're trying to make things happen, stop. Stop trying to make things happen. Stop forcing, stop pushing. My biggest message on magnetism is presence. Stop projecting into the future on what you think should happen, on what you think is available. Stop projecting to your past on what's happened, and stop allowing that to limit you in the here and the now, and get super present with your now moment, right? Get so fucking obsessed with your business and what you do and the offers that you have, right? Stop worrying about who's signing up, who's not signing up, who's there, what people are saying. All of that is literal noise, and it's stifling your magnetism. It's stifling how people are seeing you, receiving your work, right? And the really analogy I can use here is think about hosting a party, right? That's what your offers are like. It's like you're hosting a party. Stay in your own lane. Stop projecting your shit onto your offer, right? Get so good and clean with your offer. I'm talking what you teach, right? The transformation you sell, the price that you offer it for, right? Get so good and clean about that, and hold the energy of, this party is fucking incredible, and I cannot wait for you to experience the magic that's going to come. I don't recommend fixating on numbers and things like that. Again, it's very limiting in terms of what you can attract. So just get so obsessed with what you're doing, and I promise you, the client comes through, because that energy is just a byproduct. It's not something that needs to be forced. When you're in your element like that, you are so magnetic. I've had clients dream about me. People who don't even actively follow me on social media, literally they'll have a dream about me, and then they'll message me and be like, fuck, I had a dream about you. We need to work together. I'm not even kidding. That is genuinely what happens. I've had clients literally spend thousands of dollars to work with me, and they're not even following me on social media. They're not on my email list or anything like that, right? It's you don't know where it's going to come from. Stop thinking that you do, and stay in your own lane. Stay at the party. Be dancing with yourself until the person comes through, then start dancing with them, right? But still stop projecting onto what it needs to look like and how many people need to come through and blah, 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 blah. And I promise you, you'll be amazed at just how many opportunities will come your way, clients, money. It's such an incredible frequency to live from. And when you learn to do this in the moments where you're not really seeing the things that you desire, you're learning a really important skill, which is to self-source. And this is what makes you a really powerful manifestor and a really just powerful person in this life, right? Because you don't get rocked by what's happening in your 3D environment anymore, right? You're not getting rocked by what's happening, what's not happening. So even when in the presence of your desires, you don't sit there and go, I need to hold on now and make this happen and make sure that it stays, right? It's no, I can let go and I can continue to dance, right? Because it's I'm the reason this all gets pulled into my vortex, and I don't have to force to make things happen. I don't have to anxiously hold on. I just get to dance, and it's an experience can come in and then it can go, and then come in and then it can go. And it's just not this big thing, right? And you can continue to grow with the energy rather than stagnate.
I love all that you said. The one thing that stood out to me, and I found it so beautiful, I hope I can say it exactly how you said it, is stop projecting into your future of what is available and what should happen. And that sentence, oh yes, that is so beautiful. Stop projecting of, oh, they only have this much money, they might not be able to spend on me, or I need to sign these many clients to survive. So what is available and what should happen. I love that sentence that you said. And I think that's going to be my key takeaway from this podcast episode. Thank you, Shule, for coming on the podcast. I loved every bit of every single thing that you've said, and your magnetism, of course. I hope the audience can pick it up through the audio, because it definitely was lovely. I would love to know. I will have all the links in the show notes, but where do you hang out the most? Where can the people connect with you?
I definitely hang out on Instagram the most. So I'd highly recommend getting me on Instagram. My handle's at Shule Ozek. So I would recommend getting me there.
I'll make sure we have all the links in there so that people can find you. Make sure you check the description for everything. And I am just super grateful that you were here. It was a vibe. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of your Spiritual Business Coach podcast, and for listening all the way to the end, which means you have received a lot of universal codes that were packed into it. So take your time to receive them and let them get coded in your soul. And if you're feeling a little too generous, I would love for you to drop me a review or rating on whatever platform you are listening this on. If you feel the nudge to tell me what you felt about the episode or to inquire about how you can work with me and tap into your feline energy, drop me a message on Instagram at Listening Stories Untold, and I will see you in the next episode.